Welcome to the new YouTube channel. If you haven't already done it, hit the subscribe button to follow us all season long for updates and content. So happy that you're here. It's going to be a great year. Welcome back to the Richard Sherman podcast. What a crazy week. Some expected results, some very unexpected results. Mitchell, Detroit. Oh.
Richard, I am sad, but I will say this. If there was one loss on the Lions schedule this year, I'm glad it came to the Seattle Seahawks. You know why I have massive love for Seattle and the Seahawks, but this one was a hard one, Rich. 3 turnovers. 3 turnovers. 0 for Seattle. 2 immediate touchdowns. Richard, your thoughts on this game, man?
Well, Mitchell, selfishly, I loved it.
I know you
Mitchell,
did.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Mitchell. I'm Seattle Seahawks. Come on, Mitchell. I want them to win.
You have allegiance. You are bleeding. You are bleeding Seattle
right,
Seahawks
Mitchell.
blood. Yeah, I respect it, Rich.
Mitchell, I have allegiance. You see what I did there? Mitchell, I'm here all week. Gino is back like he never left. 32 of 41. Pretty efficient, 328, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. You know who they were missing, Mitchell? That last game when everything fell apart? Oh, reliable, oh, faithful. Tyler Lockett. Noe had 8 receptions for 59 yards, 2 touchdowns. DeKalen Metcalf showed up, 6 catches, 75 yards. Trey Brown showed up in a big way. They brought the rookie back, but guess who's still showing up? Trey Brown. Your boy Jared played a really good game. His streak of 383 consecutive passes without an interception ended, and of course it ended with a pick 6, Mitchell. Oh, that really broke the game open. That broke their back. Your boy Amon-Ra, the sun god, St. Brown, had a really good game. 6 receptions, 102 yards. They had a pretty good game. It was another barn burner that went to overtime. Ah, Mitchell, but it's just Seattle Seahawks, Mitchell. They're figuring it out. Pete's strategy is always don't turn the ball over, play good defense, run the football. He did not play great defense. He did not run the football well. Somehow, he still got the win.
I'll say this, Rich. The storyline going into this game, Seattle Seahawks missing their 2 starting tackles. Abe Lucas, Charles Cross, surrendered 1 sack on the game. I don't know if there's more to speak for Seattle and their O-line depth. Kudos to Seattle figuring it out throughout the week. You know, this Pete Carroll football, right, Rich? I mean, next man up, right?
He finds a way, whatever it takes to win. They're on the road. Detroit, one of the hottest teams coming out, knocked off the defending champions. And you know who they couldn't knock off? Oh, Pete Carroll and them Seattle Seahawks. I'm happy to see it. But you know who else played well, Mitchell? The San Francisco 49ers. Mitchell, they look good.
Richard, they look good against the LA Rams. And I think the bigger question here is, how good are the LA Rams? Because they only lost by 7. And Puka Nacua, 15 receptions, Rich. Broke an NFL record, the most receptions in the first 2 games of a player's NFL career. I mean, I know Matt Stafford's back. And the Rams just dusted the Seattle Seahawks. They gave, let's not lie here, Rich. They gave the 49ers some trouble. You know, I know the Niners won this game, but come on now. Are the Rams a legitimate contender in this NFC West right now, Rich?
Mitchell, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Tombstone, Mitchell. But right now, they out there like Doc Holliday. And they your Huckleberry, Mitchell. Nobody wants to see them. Matt Stafford, without expectations, without pressure of all these, hey, you got to win a Super Bowl or it's a disappointment. They don't have all that. They got a bunch of young kids. They got really talented players, but they're young, inexperienced. Nobody expects a lot. People are saying they have a bottom 5 roster. Sean McVay is coaching his behind off. Raheem Morris is coaching his behind off because they didn't quit. They didn't give up. And they are going to give everybody hell this year, Mitchell. Brock Purdy still played a pretty efficient game, 17 of 25 for 206, didn't turn the ball over, didn't throw a touchdown. They thought about giving that touchdown to Debo. It's like a swing screen, but it ended up being a rush for Debo, who rushed the ball 5 times for 38 yards and a touchdown, 6 receptions, 63 yards and a touchdown. But that boy CMC, Mitchell, was getting the job done. Huge runs all game, 116 yards, a touchdown, 3 catches for 19 yards. Brandon Ayuk was having a solid game, got a little banged up in the game, so we gotta monitor that. But that defense, they had times where they struggled and had some issues that they were going to want to clean up. But in the second half, they gave up 6 points. Diamador Lenore got his hands on the football this week. Isaiah Oliver, who's been the nickelback, he played in this nickelback last week a little bit, I think, in the second half, and got the start today at nickelback, played really well. Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner, I mean, 2 of the best linebackers in football. I'm going to keep saying it. 11 and 12 tackles for him. Fred got him a sack. But like you said, Puka Nacua, I mean, what a revelation.
They happen every year, Rich. A 5th-round pick. I don't know another 5th-round pick that's been worth a damn, quite frankly.
You're right. Frankly.
Quite frankly, Rich, I don't know one. I can't think another one. But
they don't come around often, Mitchell.
Well, hey, Puka Nacua, the waiver wire. If he's still on your fantasy free agency list, you might want to pick him up. Richard, San Francisco was your number 1 team in the power ranks. Mm-hmm. Number 2 was the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys showed out against, I know you like Robert Saleh and the Jets, the Jets. Jets, but golly, 30-10, Rich. I mean, is this more to speak about the Aaron Rodgers injury, or is Dallas for real? For real, Rich?
I mean, I put them at 2 in my power rankings, 2, not just 2 in their division, not 2 in that 2 in the power rankings overall.
I know it pained you, Rich.
They are for real. They'll drop to 3 this week because I think the Eagles are better. But they're at 2 in my power rankings, Mitchell, because they are for real. They're a good team. But if they sure are glad they were playing Zach Wilson and not Aaron Rodgers, who takes them behind the woodshed and has his way with them every time he plays them. So you got to give them credit. They played well. They have one of the best players in the National Football League in Micah Parsons. He played well, 2 sacks, a fumble recovery, a menace, 4 quarterback hits. I mean, his impact is never really measured on the stat sheet. You look on the tape and he's really everywhere. He's hitting everything. He's causing disruptions. He's causing sacks for other people. Garrett Wilson did everything he could. He could only get his hands on 2 footballs, and one of them he took 68 yards for a touchdown. They're doing everything they can, but with Zach Wilson, 12 for 27, 170 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions, it's going to be hard to win football games, Mitchell. He gave 1 to everybody. Javon Curse, Malik Hooker, Trayvon Diggs, of course, is going to get him 1. C.D. Lamb had a pretty good game. Dak Prescott had a good game against a really good defense, so you got to give them credit. Whoa. They played well. But when you get 3 interceptions and a fumble recovery, Mitchell, you're going to have a pretty good game.
Let's talk about Dak Prescott, Rich. We got our sponsor, a new sponsor last week, which we introduced, Morgan & Morgan. And now it's time for their segment, Making It Look Easy, Player of the Week. We're going to give it to Dak Prescott. And this is well-earned, Rich. The Jets, their secondary, their front 4, Rich, they're daunted. And for them to put up 30 points against the Jets, Dak Prescott made it look easy. Brought to you by Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm. This week, Dak Prescott made it look really easy, Rich, out there against the Jets, going for 31-38 for 255 and 2 tutties with no interceptions. Richard, has Dak Prescott proved anything to you? I know you love that Jets defense. Come on now. Is this a rebound game for him? I know they won 40-0 last week, but golly, man, he responded pretty well. What do you think of Dak?
He looked good, Mitchell. I've never had a problem with Dak. I think he looked much better in this game than he did the first game. And that is a really good defense. Aaron Rodgers is out, but that defense is still out there, and they still have all their pieces. A lot of really talented defense. He was still very efficient. Didn't throw an interception. Managed the game well. Hit his go-to guy in CD Lamb, who had 11 catches for 143. Managed the game really well. The Jets did not. I think Dak Prescott is legitimate. I'm sure on the other show, Skip is going to, if he's not already having, I'm sure he's over there. I'm sure
you're looking forward to tomorrow morning, man.
Oh, my gosh.
You already know what's coming, man. But, Richard, Dak Prescott earned it this week. This has been Making It Look Easy, brought to you by Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm. If you're ever injured, you can check out Morgan & Morgan. Go to forthepeople.com/Sherman or dial #law #529. Winning in the NFL is hard, Richard. You know that. But hiring a Morgan & Morgan is super easy. We appreciate our sponsors here on the Richard Sherman Podcast. Richard, let's take us to the next game. Football is back in full swing with another week of epic games. And who's got you covered on action for every single one of them? DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. New customers can bet $5 on football and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Nobody's missing out on the action this season. All DraftKings customers can take advantage of 2 new offers every game day this September. Get in on the NFL Week 2 action with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now and use code RICHARD to sign up. New customers can bet just $5 and take home $200 in bonus bets instantly. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook. With code RICHARD, the crown is yours.
Football is back. No more preseason games. The regular season is here. While we all love watching our favorite teams on television, there is nothing better than being at a game live and in person. And the best way to get tickets to any of these games is on Game Time, the fastest growing ticket app in the U.S. For last-minute amazing deals on tickets to see your favorite football team this September, download Game Time. And it's not just football. Game Time has tickets to baseball games, concerts, and even comedy shows all over the U.S. Download the Game Time app and redeem code SHERMAN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the Game Time app and use the redeem code SHERMAN. That's SHERMAN for $20 off. No matter where you live, get out and have some fun this week. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
KC.
They looked very mortal, Mitchell, and they had their guys back. Jacksonville looked decent last week. They looked kind of sloppy at times, but okay, it was fine. Christian Kirk, you heard earlier in the week that Kansas City plays a lot of man coverage. They expected Christian Kirk to have a big day, and lo and behold, Christian Kirk had a big day. 11 catches for 110. Andre Sisco got an interception. Patrick Mahomes, numbers look big, Mitchell. Numbers look big. 29 of 41, 305, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Isaiah Pacheco, who's a revelation. Looks like Sean out there. He's the closest to Marshawn I've seen in a long time. He runs the ball really hard. But just something felt off. 17 points. 17 points. Their defense held Jacksonville to 9 points. Of course, Chris Jones comes back. Chris Jones gets a sack. I mean, well, lo and behold, they play well with Chris Jones. I had Kansas City Chiefs fans telling me, Chris Jones doesn't matter. Let's trade him. What are you talking about? It's just like ignorance. You just sit there and be like, they're like, did you even watch the game? The defense played well. I'm sure they did. They did their best against the Detroit Lions. Detroit Lions came in rusty. They still won the game. And yeah, your defense gave up 14 points. Well, guess what? They just gave up 9 with Chris Jones. So maybe if they would have gave up 9 against the Lions, y'all would have walked out with a W. Maybe you should appreciate your players instead of doing what you're doing. Kansas City fans, don't sit there and be like, oh, he's holding out. We're against him. Like, maybe just be fans. Just, hey, cheer for the team. Do everything. You ain't got to be against the guys. But they look mortal. It's still early. They're still rusty. They still can play backyard football. Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce still connected for a touchdown that looked like old times. But 17 points just seems really low for them.
Well, everyone loves Jacksonville coming into the season, Rich. I mean, you've seen so many power ranks from so many gurus in the NFL. all saying Jacksonville's a top 10 team. I've seen some with them as a top 5 team. But Richard, they only posted 9 points against the Kansas City Chiefs that you just called rusty. Is Jacksonville, like, well, who are they? I mean, are we counting on them as AFC contenders? Are they just a product of a weak division, Rich?
I mean, they're definitely a product of a weak division, and they better be careful because the Rook got hurt, and Gardner Minshew Mania looked pretty decent. But before he got hurt, the rookie looked pretty decent for the Colts. And they're going to be an issue. If they can win games and they can develop him as early as they are, it can be really tough. But he needs to find a way to stay on the field, Mitchell. That's the second game in a row the rookie left before the game was over. That's concerning. But, yeah, I think they're a product of their division. They're pretenders for now, Mitchell, Jacksonville. They made the playoffs last year. They gave Kansas City a run for their money. They gave them a run for their money today. But I need to see more out of him. I mean, Trevor Lawrence, people are really high on him, think he can be a generational, one of those ones, to be mentioned in the same breath as Andrew Luck. But no touchdowns today, which is concerning.
Speaking of concerning, let's go to Cincinnati, Rich. Cincinnati is 0-2 for the second year in a row. And I know they lost to Baltimore, a division foe, but you saw this coming, I feel like. I mean, Lamar Jackson signed. A lot of motivation coming into this season. You got OBJ with that team. Richard, Baltimore Ravens go into Cincinnati Bengals territory and squeak out a win in a pretty solid fashion. What does this say about the Cincinnati Bengals? Where are they at? I mean, are they going to repeat what they did last year, or are you concerned about this team?
I'm concerned. I'm really concerned because I was concerned when Joe Burrow missed most of training camp. I was concerned when it looked like Joe Burrow came back a little too early. I know calf injuries, unfortunately. I know calf injuries. They take a while. And even when you come back, they take a while. And you're not really there. You got to go to treatment every single day. You got to make sure you stay on it. You stay on it. And Joe Burrow hasn't looked like himself. Now, he played a decent game, 27-41, 22 yards, 2 touchdowns, an interception. Decent day. T. Higgins was really going, showed he's a true number 1 receiver. Jamar Chase, need to see you. Concern. But the most concerning part is at the end of that game, Joe Burrow re-injured that calf. And if he is out for a substantial amount of time, for a significant amount of time, Mitchell, it's going to be very difficult for them to have the special seasons they've been having where, they start off 0-2 and then they just make a run. They go on a run. They get hot. Their defense plays well. It's a lot of fun to watch. If he's out, that magic goes away. And Baltimore is back. Lamar Jackson is back. He's paid. He's in MVP form, and he got weapons. Zay Flowers looked really good today. Odell Beckham Jr. is still there. Nelson Aguilar caught him a touchdown today. He was running it. He was passing it. He looked really good. Gus Edwards taking the reins for J.K. Dobbins' injury. I'm concerned, Mitchell. I'm concerned because in that division, you got the Browns. The Browns were looking good. They played tomorrow night. They looked good against the Cincinnati Bengals in the monsoon. And if they start to win games, and I don't know, Mitchell. I don't know. The Ravens
we might be
good.
talking about the Browns more on this podcast this year, Rich. And I think we're certainly going to be talking more about the Ravens. Another team we're going to be talking about is Jordan Love's Green Bay Packers. I mean, the NFC North, thankfully, from a Detroit Lions fan's perspective, got smoked this week. 0-4.
Right. Ooh.
And we were texting amongst the group, is Jordan Love legit? He looked legit, and then they took the L, Rich. Is Jordan Love legit?
Mitchell, he looked legit. He looked all the part, Mitchell. 3 touchdowns, efficient drives, making all the passes. And then he disappeared. Mitchell Casper, the friendly ghost. Jordan Love, the friendly ghost, second half. The last 3 drives, Mitchell, when they needed it, they had to have it. The Falcons had run their way back. They took a touchdown from him. That was kind of weird. It looked like a touchdown. Was it a touchdown? Mac Hollins, did his heels touch? Did his heels not touch? Yeah, I think the game would have been sealed then, but they took the touchdown away, so it was still a game. And then Atlanta goes down the field, drives down, gets the field goal. Green Bay has a shot at it, Mitchell. And that's where you say, Mitchell, Aaron Rodgers wasn't perfect. Green Bay fans, they're getting free beers today because the Jets won. I mean, the Jets lost, and they get free beers at that one place because the Jets lost. But guess what? You're going to need the beers to drown away your sorrows because your team lost too. Not saying it's karma, not saying anything like that, but your quarterback played pretty good for 3 quarters. But you know what Aaron Rodgers used to be known for, Mitchell? Those 2-minute drives when Aaron Rodgers had the ball and there's 40 seconds left on the clock, there's 58 seconds left on the clock, and they're down 3, or they're down 2, or they're down 1 like this. They would say they left too much time on the clock for Aaron Rodgers, and you would watch him do what he always does, drive all the ball right down the field to field goal range, kick the field goal, win, Packers win, everybody celebrates, yada, 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 Lambeau leap, do the dance. This time, they have a young guy. No blame. He played really well, really efficient early on. But then the last 3 drives, 3 and out, 3 and out. Then when you got to have it, 4 incompletions, 4 and out, blew a 24-12 lead. I don't know, Mitchell. Desmond Ridder hasn't never lost at home, 30-0, college and NFL. The Falcons went for it on 4th and 1. It was crazy, Mitchell. They needed to have it. Those are the kind of coaching decisions that win your ball games. But I want to say that Jordan Love is the real deal. But 14 of 25 for 151 and 3 touchdowns. And the 3 touchdowns sound great, Mitchell. But when you lose the game, the 14 of 25 doesn't look as good as it should look. And the 151 doesn't look like it's enough.
It isn't enough. And like you said, Rich, I mean, from an NFC North fan perspective, you see the Brett Favres, you see the Aaron Rodgers. I mean, hell, even Kirk Cousins. Some of these guys, when they're on their final drive and you see them coming in, they instill fear in you when they are down. Jordan Love's got to develop that. He's young into his career, obviously, but today, I had a sigh of relief, Rich, because he wasn't that guy today. And
Right.
Richard, that was the guy that Aaron Rodgers was. And that L, he had ample opportunity to make that a W. So we'll see going forward. But today it's a loss. Atlanta, who knows, man? They might be a squad this year. Who knows?
Hey,
I mean, Bijan Robinson. Who knows? Rich, there's always a team that comes out of nowhere. Who knows?
Well,
let's move down to Buffalo.
We know they 2-0. Bijan Robinson 19 for 124. Ooh, he looked good. He looked good when they needed to have it, too. The Packers play the Saints next week, too. So that'll be a real barometer.
Richard, and certain athletes, when you see them for the first time, they're going to be that guy. Newsflash, Bijan Robinson's that guy.
He's that guy. For a limited time, you can save 40% on an NFL Plus premium annual subscription when you sign up through Plus Play from Verizon. Plus Play is a platform where you can shop, manage, and save on the subscriptions you already love, like NFL Plus. With NFL Plus Premium, you can get access to live games on mobile, NFL Red Zone, NFL Network, and much more. So you can watch multiple games all at once on any screen around you for updates. Never miss a touchdown. And for fantasy players, NFL Plus Premium makes all the difference. Access to programming like Fantasy Live through NFL Network, Red Zone for tracking player performance on Sundays, access to live, local, and primetime games, access to Fantasy Plus. Just go to Verizon.com/NFL to get NFL Plus Premium today. It's 40% off for an annual subscription. That's just $59.99 for the full season. Get it before it's gone.
Richard, let's move to Buffalo. The Raiders.
No, let's not move to Buffalo, but we'll move to the game.
We're not moving to Buffalo. I do love their fan base, though. And
they got great fans.
Richard, this game, got out of hand early. I don't think there's a whole lot to discuss here. But are you less concerned about Josh Allen now after 38-10, the Raiders, beating them up pretty good? Is this a calm down game for the Buffalo Bills?
I mean, somewhat, Mitchell, somewhat. It's a calm down game because he doesn't turn the ball over. He looked like Josh Allen of old. He looks like the MVP candidate everybody expected him to be when the season started in last year and the year before that when he was dueling Patrick Mahomes. He looked great. 124.8 passer rating. He looked really good. James Cook looked really good. 17 carries for 123. Most by a Bills running back since 2017. They don't run the ball usually, Mitchell. They don't usually run the ball, but they looked really good. Diggs looked he looked fine. 7 catches for 66 yards, but I just don't know who the Raiders are. I don't know who the Raiders are. So it's tough for me to give him credit like, hey, this Raiders defense was really elite and stingy because he played a good defense last week and he struggled. He struggled unnecessarily, and so they cleaned it up. I just don't know. It's Jekyll and Hyde a little bit.
Yeah, well, I agree with you. I mean, we won't know. We won't know. I mean, and frankly, we won't know until week 4. The Bills play the Commanders next week. I'm not in love with Washington, so it's like, and well, let's move to Washington because this game, Richard, the Washington Commanders are 2-0. I can't remember I've got short-term memory, but I believe they got off to a hot start last year as well. And they were down early in this game. And Russ was looking like the Russ of old. I think you saw a Russ that you remembered, right, Rich? Early in this game. He was ripping it out. Mims Jr. caught a couple deep balls in this game. And he was letting it fly. And I'm like, holy cow, Denver looks good. You know what, Rich? I had zero faith in Denver. I was all about Washington. When they went down, sure as hell, they came back, they won this game. And I don't know who the Commanders are. I don't know who the Broncos are, but I want to discuss Russell Wilson a little bit here. He looked better today, but they're 0-2. They're out to a poor start again. Like, what does he have to do? What does this team have to do to reboot and reload and get the season off to a better start in week 3?
Mitchell, I don't know how much you listen to R&B or Usher, because this is feeling like Denver's offense and defense this year. They are trading play. If they would have gave me a voice, Mitchell, you would have never met me, Mitchell, because they're trading places. Mitchell, last year they had a top 5 defense in scoring. Mitchell, they were holding people to 10 points. They held the San Francisco 49ers to 10 points, and their offense scored 11, and they won the game. And this year, they gave up 35 to the Washington Commanders. They gave up points last week in a loss to the Raiders. And it's like, what's happening here? Last year, they were really elite on defense, which gave them a chance, and their offense was struggling. So you always said, hey, when is Russ going to put it together and help the defense out? Well, Russ is putting it together. He and Sean Payton have figured it out. At first, early on, he wasn't completing a lot of passes, but the ones he was completing were bombs. They looked like Russell Wilson. This is what I was talking about last week on the podcast. It's like, he completed a lot of passes last week, but just none of them were like his kind of passes where he's just trying down the field. And this week, he took a lot of shots, Mitchell. He even got a tip 50-yard Hail Mary that was a touchdown. That was a cool play. But he was sacked 7 times. And that was a concern coming into the season for me, that offensive line. Not Mike McGlinchey, who they paid the money to. He's a good player. But the rest of them, how was Garrett Bowles going to come back? What is that interior of that offensive line going to look like? And today, the Washington Commanders, who have an incredible pass rush, showed you they're going to struggle. They're going to struggle with them. And if they don't get that fixed, Russell's in for a very sore season. But he still played well, Mitchell. He still played well. 18-32, 308, 3 touchdowns, the 1 interception. He ran the ball, Mitchell. He was running the ball. He ran the ball 6 times for 56 yards. He was keeping this team. He was doing whatever it took to put his team in position to win this ball game. But Sam Howell, Mitchell, he looked the part. 299, 27-39, 2 touchdowns. Brian Robinson looked really good, 18 carries for 87 yards, 2 touchdowns. Scary Terry got him a touchdown. It just never felt like the Washington Commanders were totally in control, but it never felt like Denver had a chance. It was a weird game. It felt like every time Denver the Commanders struck back, and Denver was up for a little while where it was like, hey, okay, there it is. They're starting to do it. And then the Commanders come rushing back, completing passes. And once they took control of the game, it looked as though Denver didn't have a chance. And you just wonder what exactly is going on that defense that has changed. You know, that this is not a prolific offense that you're expecting. Now, Eric Bieniemy, their new offensive coordinator, comes with a lot of expectation. And so far, he's delivered. But what's going on with this defense? And their schedule gets no easier for Denver because they got to go. They're going to Miami. And that's not going to be any more fun, Mitchell. Tua and them boys. Oh.
It's no fun. It's no, and the Commanders get a big test next week. I mean, Richard, they're 2-0 playing the Bills. I mean, this is an opportunity for them to prove themselves worthy in the NFL next week. Richard, we talked about it coming into this season. We saw a dark horse that was getting slept on. Baker Mayfield. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers 2-0. No one saw it coming. We saw it coming. Richard, Chicago Bears, NFC North team, trash. 0-2. Thank God. The Buccaneers, let's talk about them, Rich. I know you got some allegiance to the Buccaneers. Your boy, Mike Evans, is a stud.
He's a stud, Mitchell, and he's a top 5 receiver in the National Football League, and he has been so. He has done it with everybody. Mike Glennon, all the way from Mike Glennon to Tom Brady to now Baker Mayfield. He had 6 catches for 171, Mitchell. It don't matter who's out there. I can bring you out there, Mitchell. I can bring Goldie, Rory. I can bring my daughter, Avery. I can bring my son, Raiden. And he'd still have 1,000 yards because all he does is have 1,000 yards. Great game for him. Baker Mayfield looked like the number 1 pick, Mitchell. If you told me that this is number 1 pick, he's 26 of 34 for 317 and a tug, Mitchell, I'd say, I think you got one. And the Buccaneers got him for $4 million. I bet they feel dang good about themselves. They're 2-0 right now. They're feeling good. They're looking good. Justin Fields, though, Mitchell, looks bad. He threw a pick 6 in a way to Shaq Barrett, who's my boy. It just looked bad, Mitchell. It looked like he did not understand what was going on right there. He was overwhelmed. The moment was too big for him. He threw it right to him. They walked it into the end zone because it was at like the 3-yard line, 4-yard line. But this is the first time Baker started 2-0. I mean, we knew everybody said Tom Brady's leaving, like all is lost. Well, it's not a great division. It wasn't a great division last year, even though they're starting 2-0. The Atlanta Falcons are starting 2-0. The Saints, depending on what they do, have been playing well. They played well last week. And obviously Carolina's still rebuilding, but they have the defensive pieces that are there. But oh, good for Baker, man. I'm happy to see that. Sometimes you just need a feel-good story. And he's not doing all the commercials and all that where he's living in the stadium in Cleveland, but he looks good. Good for the Bucs.
And they got a big one next week, Monday Night Football against the Eagles. And Richard, Baker Mayfield's always had a chip on his shoulder, but you put him with 0 expectations, like we talked about with Matt Stafford, and that chip gets a little bit bigger. I'm excited to see what he does next week. Richard, I think this Bucs team could be dangerous in this division. So I'm curious to see. I mean, we got some Monday Night Football games to play here, but where does your power ranks that top 5? Where are we looking? Because I don't know if this Monday Night Football slate of games is going to impact that a whole lot.
Well, Mitchell, unfortunately, your Detroit Lions are going to exit. They're going to exit the poll, Mitchell. They're going to exit. I'm sorry. I tried so hard. And even get away from misery. And all that. I got to have the San Francisco 49ers at 1. Skip's going to hate it because the Dallas Cowboys are 2. They're still 2, Mitchell. I gotta give them 2 because the Eagles gave up 28 points to Kirko, and they technically probably should have lost that game if Jefferson doesn't fumble the ball right before the half. They probably lose that game. Kirk threw for 4 touchdowns, but I'll keep them at 3. Kansas City didn't do enough for me to move them up past them. I'd go Dolphins at 4, Kansas City at 5.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair. I will say this about Dallas. They look impressive. I know you're about to be sitting across from Skip, and he's going to be all fired up tomorrow morning, Rich. But God bless it. Dallas, for once, from an objective perspective, I don't give a rat's ass about the Cowboys, but they look good.
They do. They look good. They look good, and they played well. And that defense, Dan Quinn, is doing a heck of a job, Mitchell. But you know when January comes, Mitchell.
I already know. The Niners. You can't. Richard, I'm on board with you. This has been our recap. This is week 2. We got a lot more of these, Richard. I'll let you sign us off. We'll see you all back here on Tuesday.
Well, I hope all of our new subscribers and our future subscribers have enjoyed the show. We got our own channel now. We're feeling good. Welcome to the Richard Sherman Podcast. Stick with us. See you next week, or see you in a couple days, because we might have a special guest. Stay tuned. Hit the sub button if you're new, because we just want to grow. See you next time.